I stood in my childhood living room on Christmas morning, staring through the frosted window at my sister screaming with joy. Outside, a pearl-white BMW gleamed in the driveway, wrapped with an enormous red satin bow. My parents filmed Madison on their phones, their faces bright with pride. I looked down at my own gift, still clutched in trembling hands. A cheap plastic piggy bank. Inside, a $1 bill folded into quarters. 28 years old, and this was my worth to them. The sound of Madison's squealing carried through the double-paned windows. She was 25, fresh out of college with a part-time job at a boutique in downtown Hartford. I watched her bounce on her toes, throwing her arms around our father's neck. My mother wiped away theatrical tears, the kind she'd perfected for moments she wanted to remember as beautiful. I couldn't move. The piggy bank felt heavy as concrete in my palms, though it weighed almost nothing. Pink ceramic with a crooked smile painted on its face, the kind you'd buy at a dollar store. Which, I realized with a sinking feeling, was probably exactly where they got it. My mother finally noticed me standing there. She turned from the window, her expression shifting to something that looked almost like pity, but felt more like dismissal. "Oh, honey, don't look so glum," Linda said, waving her hand as though brushing away my feelings like cobwebs. "You're 28 years old. Madison just graduated. She needs a reliable car for her new job." New job. Madison worked 15 hours a week selling overpriced candles and arranging Instagram-worthy displays. Meanwhile, I pulled 60-hour shifts at Hartford Hospital, keeping people alive, coming home with aching feet and the weight of other people's suffering pressed into my scrubs. My father, Frank, stepped back inside, his phone still recording. He barely glanced at me before adding, "Besides, you have the Honda. That's plenty for someone in your position." Someone in my position. A registered nurse with a bachelor's degree. Someone who paid her own rent, her own bills, who hadn't asked them for a dime in 5 years. The Honda. The 2015 Accord I'd been driving for the past 2 years. They called it the family car. Made me feel guilty every time I used it. Asked me to bring it back for family trips I was never invited on. Complained about every tiny scratch, every smudge on the interior. "I need some air," I heard myself say. Madison burst through the front door, her voice shrill with excitement. "Did you see it? Did you see my car? It's perfect. It has heated seats and a sunroof and this amazing sound system." She didn't look at me. Didn't acknowledge the piggy bank in my hands or the way I stood frozen in the middle of the room. To her, I wasn't even there. "Don't forget we need the Honda back by 3, my mother called after me as I headed for the door. "Your father wants to take Madison car shopping for accessories." The words didn't fully register until I was outside, the December cold biting through my sweater. Madison car shopping. For accessories. For the $75,000 vehicle currently sitting in our driveway, like a monument to favoritism. I walked to the Honda on autopilot, my breath making small clouds in the freezing air. The keys were in my coat pocket where I always kept them. I unlocked the door and slid into the driver's seat, still holding that ridiculous piggy bank. I set it on the passenger seat and just stared at it. $1. My hand moved to the ignition, but something made me pause. I looked at the windshield, at the small rectangular sticker in the corner. The registration renewal. I'd noticed it before, but never really thought about it. With shaking fingers, I opened the glove box. Insurance card, owner's manual, a few fast food napkins, and underneath, the vehicle registration and title. I pulled them out. The registration showed the car's make, model, year, and the owner's name. Etta Marie Thompson. My name. My full legal name. I flipped to the title document, certain I must be reading it wrong, but there it was again. Owner, Etta Marie Thompson. My signature on the bottom from 2 years ago. My address, my information. The car was mine. Legally. Completely mine. I sat back, my mind racing through memories. 2 years ago, my father asked me to help with paperwork. Said he was refinancing something, needed my signature on a few documents. I'd been tired from a double shift, signed whatever he put in front of me. I hadn't asked questions. Why would I? He was my father. Now I understood. They'd put the car in my name for insurance purposes. Younger driver, clean record, lower premiums. But they'd told me it was a family car. Made me believe I was borrowing it, that I should be grateful they let me use it, that I owed them for their generosity. They'd lied to me for 2 years about a car I legally owned. My phone buzzed. A group text notification. Madison had created a new family chat. Best Christmas ever. Followed by 17 photos of her posing with the BMW. Close-ups of the bow, shots of the interior, a video of her sitting in the driver's seat, revving the engine. Not one message acknowledged me. Not one person asked what I'd received or if I was okay. I looked at the piggy bank again, then at the title in my hands. Something inside me, something that had been bending for years under the weight of their expectations and neglect, finally snapped. I opened the family group chat and typed, "Thanks for the thoughtful gift. By the way, the Honda is in my name. It's mine. I'm keeping it. Merry Christmas." I hit send before I could second-guess myself. Then I started the engine and backed out of the driveway. Through the rearview mirror, I saw my mother rush to the window, her phone pressed to her ear. My father appeared beside her, his face darkening even from this distance. I didn't stop. I drove down the familiar street of my childhood neighborhood, past the houses decked with lights and inflatable Santas. My phone started ringing immediately. I glanced at the screen. My father. I declined the call. It rang again. My mother. Declined. Text messages started flooding in. Mom, Etta Marie Thompson, you turn that car around right now. Dad. This is unacceptable. We need to talk immediately. Madison, are you seriously doing this right now? On Christmas? I merged onto Interstate 91, heading north toward Hartford, toward my small apartment, toward my own space, my own life, away from them. More calls, more texts. I ignored them all. My hands were steady on the wheel, but my heart hammered against my ribs. I'd never defied them like this, never stood up for myself so directly. I was the good daughter, the responsible one, the one who absorbed their criticism and kept smiling. Not anymore. I was 20 minutes from their house when my phone lit up again. My father's name. I almost didn't answer, but something made me check the voicemail he'd just left. I pressed play and immediately regretted it. His voice came through the car speakers, cold and sharp as a knife. Etta, I don't know what game you think you're playing, but that car is family property. You turn it around right now and bring it back, or I'm calling the police and reporting it stolen. You have until midnight. Don't test me. My vision blurred. I had to pull off at the next exit, hands shaking too hard to drive safely. I sat in a gas station parking lot, the engine still running, and played the message again. He was threatening to report me for stealing my own car. The car that was registered in my name. The car I legally owned. They weren't just manipulative. They were vindictive. I sat there for 10 minutes, watching other families pump gas, load shopping bags into their trunks, living their normal Christmas Day lives. Nobody knew that my entire understanding of my family had just shattered like cheap glass. Finally, I took a deep breath and continued driving home. My apartment had never felt smaller. I paced from the kitchen to the living room and back again, my phone face down on the counter because I couldn't stand to see the notifications anymore. Every few seconds, it buzzed with another incoming message. The sound drilled into my skull. I made tea with trembling hands, then forgot about it and let it go cold. I pulled up Connecticut vehicle ownership law on my laptop, reading the same paragraphs over and over until the words blurred together. The car was mine. Registered owner. Legal title. My name. My property. They couldn't report it stolen. It would be a false report. The police would see the registration immediately. But my father's voice kept playing in my head. That certainty, that threat. He wouldn't have said it unless he believed he could follow through. I picked up my phone. 43 missed calls. 67 text messages. I opened the messages, scrolling through them. My mother's guilt trips evolved from disappointment to hysteria. How could you ruin Christmas like this? Madison is crying. Your father is beside himself. We gave you everything, and this is how you repay us? Madison's messages turned vicious. You're a selfish witch. This is my day and you made it about you. I hate you. My father's texts were short and threatening. Last chance. You're making a mistake you'll regret. Midnight deadline. I blocked all 3 numbers. My hands stopped shaking once I couldn't see their words anymore. The apartment was silent except for the hum of the refrigerator. I sat on my second-hand couch and stared at the small Christmas tree I'd put up the week before. Dollar store decorations and a string of lights from Target. I'd been proud of it, in a small way. My own little celebration of independence. Now it looked pathetic. My phone rang from an unknown number. I stared at it, debating. Finally answered. Hello? Etta, honey. It's Aunt Diane. My father's sister. I hadn't spoken to her in months. Hi, Aunt Diane. Listen, sweetheart. Your parents just called me. They're so upset. They told me what happened, and I have to say, I'm disappointed in you. My stomach dropped. They called you? Of course they did. They're heartbroken, Etta. They gave you that car to use, and you're acting like they owe you something. Madison deserves nice things. She's just starting her life. You're being incredibly selfish. I tried to explain. The car is in my name, Aunt Diane. Legally, I own it. Your father pays the insurance, doesn't he? That makes it his car, regardless of whose name is on some paperwork. You need to grow up and return it. This family doesn't need this drama. She hung up before I could respond. I sat there, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone. They were calling everyone, spinning their version of events, making me the villain. I checked Facebook on my laptop. My mother had posted 20 minutes ago. When your children break your heart during the holidays, some people are never satisfied with what they're given. Feeling heartbroken. The comments were already rolling in. Relatives I barely knew, family friends, distant cousins, all sympathizing with her. All asking what happened, offering support. Linda, I'm so sorry you're going through this. The holidays bring out the worst in some people. You and Frank are such good parents. You don't deserve this. Nobody asked for my side. Nobody questioned her vague accusation. They just accepted that I was the problem. I deactivated my Facebook account. Then Instagram. Then every social media platform I had. I couldn't watch them destroy my reputation in real time. It was 7 p.m. when exhaustion finally pulled me toward my bedroom. I needed to sleep, to shut my brain off, to stop spiraling. But I couldn't stop thinking about my father's threat. Midnight deadline. What would he actually do? I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, and that's when another memory surfaced. 3 years ago, my grandmother died. She'd left me money in a trust fund, $10,000. My father said he'd manage it until I turned 30. Said it was being invested, growing. I was 28 now. 2 more years and I'd get it. But when was the last time I saw a statement? I got up and went to the filing cabinet in my closet. I kept every important document I'd ever received, organized in folders. I found the trust fund paperwork from 3 years ago. The initial documentation showed $10,000 deposited in my name, with my father listed as trustee. But I couldn't find any recent statements. Nothing from the past year. I opened my laptop and navigated to the bank's website. It took me 20 minutes to find my grandmother's old account information, saved in my password manager. I'd set up online access years ago, but never checked it. I logged in, expecting the system to reject me. Instead, it opened to the trust account. Current balance, $2,312. I stared at the number, certain it was wrong. I refreshed the page. Same number. Nearly $8,000 gone. I pulled up the transaction history with shaking hands. Withdrawals. Dozens of them over 3 years. Small amounts at first. 200 here, $500 there, all labeled administrative fees or management costs. The withdrawals increased significantly 2 years ago, right around the time I signed those papers for my father, right around the time the Honda appeared in the driveway. They'd used my inheritance to buy the car, put it in my name for insurance purposes, then told me it was a family car I should be grateful to borrow. They'd stolen from me to manipulate me. I couldn't breathe. The walls of my apartment pressed inward. I stumbled to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face, but it didn't help. My reflection in the mirror showed a stranger. Red eyes, pale skin, the face of someone whose entire reality had been a lie. The apartment buzzer rang at 1:45 in the morning. I was still awake, sitting on the couch with my laptop, documenting everything. Screenshots of the trust account, photos of the car title and registration. I'd started a timeline of every suspicious financial interaction I could remember. The buzzer rang again, insistent. I checked the security camera feed on my phone. My mother and Madison stood outside the building's entrance. Linda's hair was messy, her makeup smeared. Madison wore pajama pants and an expensive parka. My mother's voice crackled through the intercom. "Etta, please. We need to talk. We're family. Open the door." I should have ignored them. Should have turned off the intercom and gone to bed. But 3 years of being the good daughter, the peacekeeper, the one who always tried to fix things, made me press the button. They were inside my apartment 30 seconds later. Madison pushed past me without a word, her eyes scanning the room. "Where are the car keys?" "Madison," I started, but she cut me off. "Give them to me right now. This is ridiculous. You're acting like a child." My mother stood in the doorway, her expression shifting between false sweetness and barely concealed rage. "Sweetheart, we can work this out, but you need to understand. We can't have you driving around in a car that has unpaid insurance claims against it." "What are you talking about?" I asked. Heavy footsteps in the hallway. My father appeared behind them, his face flushed. He'd been waiting. He held up his phone. "I filed a police report 2 hours ago. Reported the Honda stolen. I told them my daughter took it without permission after I specifically told her not to. The officer said they'd be in touch with you tomorrow." The floor disappeared beneath my feet. "You did what?" I whispered. "You have one chance to make this right," Frank continued. "Give Madison the keys. Sign a document saying you have no claim to the vehicle. We drop the police report, and we all forget this happened." "The car is in my name," I said, my voice shaking. "You can't report it stolen. That's a false report. That's illegal. We'll see what the police say when they hear you've been unstable, making wild accusations, harassing your family." My father stepped into my apartment, uninvited. "You're going to give us those keys, or you're going to jail. Your choice." The police called at 9 in the morning. I'd been awake all night, my parents and sister finally leaving my apartment at 3 after hurling threats and accusations until my downstairs neighbor banged on the ceiling. I sat on my couch in yesterday's clothes, my phone clutched in my hand, waiting. Officer Martinez sounded tired. "Miss Thompson?" "This is Officer Martinez with Hartford PD. Your father filed a stolen vehicle report last night for a 2015 Honda Accord. I need to ask you some questions." "The car is registered in my name," I said immediately. "I have the title. It's mine." A pause. "Ma'am, I'm looking at the registration now. It does show you as the owner. Can you explain why your father would report it stolen?" I explained everything. The manipulation, the insurance fraud, how they'd convinced me for 2 years that I was borrowing a family car when it was legally mine. Officer Martinez sighed. "Miss Thompson, if the vehicle is registered to you, your father filed a false report. That's actually a crime. However, he's claiming there's a verbal family agreement that supersedes the paperwork. He says the car was always meant to be shared family property. That's not true. They put it in my name and lied to me about it. I believe you, ma'am. But this is a civil matter now. It's your car legally, but family disputes get complicated. Unless you want to press charges against your father for filing a false police report, there's not much I can do. Press charges against my father. The words hung in the air. I need to think about it, I said. That's fine. But I'd recommend documenting everything and considering a restraining order if the harassment continues. And ma'am, keep that title somewhere safe. I thanked him and hung up. For a moment, I felt relieved. The police confirmed it. The car was mine. Then my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. It was a photo, a legal document. Civil complaint. Frank Thompson and Linda Thompson versus Etta Marie Thompson. I opened the image with shaking hands. My father's attorney had drafted a lawsuit. They were suing me for $52,000 in loans provided over the past 10 years. The list was insane. College textbooks, $8,000. Apartment security deposits, $6,000. Car insurance payments, $12,000. Medical bills, $9,000. Furniture and household items, $17,000. Some of these things were gifts. Some I'd paid for myself. Some never happened at all. The demand letter at the bottom threatened wage garnishment if I didn't repay immediately. I called the free legal aid hotline, my voice barely steady. The attorney who answered, Gregory, listened to my story without interrupting. They're trying to intimidate you, he said finally. But here's the problem. If they have documentation, even fabricated documentation, you'll need to fight it. Do you have proof these were gifts, or that you paid for things yourself? I had some Venmo records, some old text messages, but most transactions had been cash or verbal. If they fabricated loan documents and forged your signature, that's fraud, Gregory continued. But proving forgery requires forensic analysis. That's expensive. They might be betting you can't afford to fight. He offered to take my case for $1,500 up front. I had $3,000 in savings total. I couldn't afford it. I'll think about it, I said, knowing I had no other options. I had to work that afternoon, a 12-hour shift starting at 2. I dragged myself through a shower, put on clean scrubs, and drove to Hartford Hospital in my Honda, the car that had become the center of a nightmare. My supervisor, Janet, called me into her office before my shift started. Etta, I received a concerning call yesterday from someone claiming to be your mother. My stomach twisted. She said you were having a mental health crisis, that you'd stolen a family vehicle, that you were unstable. Janet looked uncomfortable. She suggested we should be aware our nurse might be unreliable. Heat flooded my face. Janet, that's not true. The car is registered in my name. My family is upset because I wouldn't give it to my sister. They're lying. I believe you, Janet said gently, but I have to document the call per protocol. If your family continues calling here, it could become a problem. I'm trying to protect you, but you need to handle this. I worked my shift in a fog. Drew blood, administered medications, checked vitals, smiled at patients. Every movement was automatic. My mind was elsewhere, trapped in the impossible situation my family had created. At 11 that night, exhausted and mentally destroyed, I drove home. My phone had been mercifully quiet all day. I'd hoped they were giving up. Instead, I found an email waiting. Subject: Final warning. From my father. I opened it with shaking hands. Attached were scanned documents. Loan agreements dated from my college years through last year. Official-looking forms with signatures at the bottom. The signatures looked like mine, but slightly wrong, like someone had traced them. The email body was short. Return the car and sign a repayment plan, or we file in court Monday. Your choice. We raised you better than this. I zoomed in on the signatures. Some were dated from times I was working night shifts. I could prove I wasn't home to sign. But they were convincing enough that a court might believe them without an expert. I sat on my apartment floor at midnight, surrounded by paperwork. My trust fund depleted. My car legally mine, but costing me everything. My workplace under siege. My reputation destroyed on social media. A $52,000 lawsuit looming. I couldn't afford an attorney. I was working 60-hour weeks, barely surviving. Meanwhile, Madison got a $75,000 BMW, and everyone's sympathy. My phone rang at 2:14 in the morning. My mother's number. I'd unblocked it to receive the legal documents. I answered without thinking. "Sweetheart, I couldn't sleep." Linda's voice was sugary, false. "Here's what we'll do. Come home tomorrow. Bring the Honda. We'll sign the title over to Madison. She needs a second car for commuting anyway. We'll give you the piggy bank money back, all $1 of it, and we'll forget about the $52,000 you owe us. Everyone wins. We're family. This is what families do. We forgive you. You want me to give Madison my car and pretend you didn't steal from my trust fund?" Her tone shifted. Ice replacing sugar. "Trust fund? That money went to your expenses, young lady. Every penny. You're not a victim here. You're an ungrateful child who needs to learn her place. See you tomorrow at noon, or our attorney files Monday morning." The line went dead. I stared at my phone. They weren't going to stop. They were going to destroy me financially, professionally, socially. They had resources, connections, and no conscience. I was going to lose everything. At 10 in the morning, my doorbell rang. Not the buzzer, the actual door. Someone had gotten into the building. I looked through the peephole, expecting my mother. Instead, I saw a man in his 30s with dark hair and a familiar face I hadn't seen in 5 years. Tyler, my cousin, my mother's nephew. I opened the door cautiously. "Tyler?" "I saw Madison's posts," he said. I knew the story was garbage. "Can I come in?" I let him in, confused. Tyler had been estranged from the family since before I graduated college. He'd moved to Boston, and I'd heard whispers about a falling out, but never knew the details. He sat on my couch and got straight to the point. "I was the golden child before Madison. Did you know that?" I shook my head. "My parents divorced when I was 16. My mom had addiction problems. Linda and Frank took me in, promised to help me through college, said they'd take care of me." His jaw tightened. "Then they systematically destroyed my confidence, stole money my mother left me, and kicked me out when I questioned them. I had to fight for 2 years to get my inheritance back." I stared at him. "They did the same thing to you?" "They have a pattern, Etta. They find someone vulnerable, make them dependent, then take everything. When I saw what they did to you at Christmas, I knew I had to tell you what you're dealing with." He pulled out his laptop. "I did some digging after seeing Madison's posts. Your grandfather died 8 months ago, right? In May. I went to the funeral. His estate was worth $420,000, split between Linda and her siblings. But did you know his will had a specific provision? $25,000 each, directly to you and Madison, bypassing your parents." I felt the blood drain from my face. "What?" He showed me the will, pulled from public probate records. My grandfather's shaky signature at the bottom. The provision clearly stated, $25,000 to each granddaughter upon estate settlement. The estate settled 3 months ago. August. You should have received a check. I never got anything. Tyler pulled up more documents. The estate settlement showed $25,000 allocated to Etta Marie Thompson, but the canceled check image showed it deposited into an account I didn't recognize. He zoomed in on the back of the check. The endorsement signature was meant to look like mine, but was clearly different. Someone had forged my signature and stolen $25,000. Madison got her money, Tyler said, showing me another document. There's her thank you note in the probate file. She received her check in August. Madison knew. Madison got her inheritance and said nothing when I didn't get mine. The BMW cost $75,000, Tyler continued. 25 from your grandfather to Madison. 25 stolen from you via forged check. 25 from your depleted trust fund. They used your money to buy her that car. The room spun. I gripped the edge of the couch. Tyler kept going, showing me screenshots his mother had sent him. Text messages between Linda and her sister. June. We need to figure out the car situation. Madison graduates next year and needs something impressive, thinking of using Etta's inheritance. She doesn't check her accounts anyway. September. Put the Honda in Etta's name years ago for insurance, but she thinks it's ours. Good leverage if she ever questions anything. November. Found a BMW Madison loves. $75,000, but worth it. She deserves the best. Etta will get over it. December 20th. Plan for Christmas is set. Madison gets the car. Etta gets something small. If she makes a fuss, we have the loan documents ready. Frank's attorney drew them up. They'd planned this for months. Anticipated my reaction. Prepared forged documents in advance. Tyler showed me another screenshot. Madison to Linda on Christmas Eve. What if Etta actually figures out the Honda is in her name? Linda. Then we use Plan B, the loan documents. She can't afford to fight us. Madison. What about her inheritance from Grandpa? Linda. Already handled. Deposited in August. She never asked about it. Madison. Perfect. This is going to be so fun. So fun. My sister thought destroying me was entertainment. They don't just want the car, Tyler explained. They want you to sign a document releasing any claims to your grandfather's estate. If you sign it, you can't sue them for the forged check. They're using the car and the fake lawsuit to pressure you into signing away your right to recover $25,000. I couldn't speak. Couldn't process the level of calculation, the depth of betrayal. I have copies of everything, Tyler said. The will, the forged check, the estate documents, these texts. It's enough for a fraud case. But you need to decide if you want to fight or walk away. For the first time in days, I felt something other than fear. I felt anger. Clean, clarifying anger. They planned this, I said. They celebrated it. My own mother, father, and sister. I know a criminal defense attorney in Hartford who handles fraud cases, Tyler said. She owes me a favor. Want me to make an introduction? My phone rang. My father. It was 11:45. It's almost noon, I said. They're expecting me to hand over the car, Tyler grinned. Let's give them a different surprise. 45 minutes later, we sat in attorney Sarah Blake's office. She was in her early 40s, sharp-eyed, with graying hair pulled into a tight bun. She reviewed everything Tyler brought with barely concealed anger. This is identity theft, forgery, and fraud, Sarah said. Potentially embezzlement since your mother was acting as executor. We can file criminal charges and a civil suit. My phone rang again. My father. I answered on speaker. It's noon. Where are you? We're waiting. I took a deep breath. I'm not coming. The car is mine. It's in my name, and you know it. Also, I know about grandfather's inheritance. The $25,000 you stole. I have the forged check. Silence. Then my father's voice, dangerous and low. You don't know what you're talking about. I have evidence. Text messages. Estate documents. Everything. If you pursue this, Etta, you'll regret it. We'll bury you in legal fees. We'll tell everyone who will listen what kind of person you really are. Madison will testify against you. I looked at Sarah. She nodded. Then I'll see you in court. I hung up. Sarah leaned back in her chair. You just declared war. They're going to come at you with everything they have. Are you ready for that? I thought about the piggy bank. The $1. The years of feeling less than, of being the afterthought. The convenient child who asked for nothing and received the same. I'm ready. The counterattack came within 24 hours. I woke to an email from a law firm I'd never heard of. Castellano and Associates. High-powered, expensive. The kind with marble lobbies and billable hours that could bankrupt a small country. They'd filed multiple actions on behalf of Frank and Linda Thompson, a counter-lawsuit for defamation, claiming I was spreading false accusations that damaged their reputation. A motion to freeze my bank accounts, claiming the trust fund money belonged to them as repayment for years of support. An emergency restraining order petition, claiming I'd threatened violence and they feared for their safety. The restraining order hearing was scheduled for January 2nd. If granted, I couldn't go within 500 feet of my family. Couldn't investigate. Couldn't gather evidence. Couldn't build my case. I called Sarah immediately. She was already aware. "They're trying to shut you down before you can build momentum," she said. "The restraining order is the key. If they get it, they control the narrative. We fight it in 2 days." 2 days felt like an eternity. At 2 that afternoon, my phone rang. Hartford Hospital HR. "Etta, we need you to come in immediately." I drove to the hospital with dread pooling in my stomach. The HR office felt sterile and cold. My supervisor, Janet, sat in the corner, her expression miserable. The HR director, Michael Chen, didn't waste time. "Etta, we've received multiple complaints about your conduct. Your family has contacted us repeatedly. Yesterday, a woman claiming to be your sister came to the hospital, demanded to speak with you, and caused a scene in the lobby. Madison came to my workplace, actually showed up and made a scene. This morning, your father called claiming you made threats against family members. We also received a letter from your family's attorney, threatening legal action if we don't address your unstable behavior." Janet spoke up. "Michael, Etta is one of our best nurses. This is clearly a personal matter being weaponized." Michael held up his hand. "Which is affecting the workplace. I'm placing you on administrative leave, pending investigation. 2 weeks, unpaid. We need to ensure there's no risk to patients or staff. Leave your badge." I was escorted out of Hartford Hospital like a criminal. 2 weeks unpaid meant I couldn't pay next month's rent. My career, my identity, my financial stability, all crumbling. That evening, Officer Martinez called. "Miss Thompson, your sister filed a police report. She claims you've sent threatening messages and made harassing phone calls." "I haven't contacted her at all," I said, pulling up my phone records. "Look, I can prove it. No calls or texts to her number since Christmas morning. She provided screenshots of threatening messages allegedly from your number." He emailed them to me. The messages said things I would never say, with typos and language I'd never use. Someone had faked them. "These aren't from me," I told Martinez. "They're fabricated." That's what I suspected. But I have to include them in my report. "Be careful, Miss Thompson. If your family is willing to make false claims, this could escalate." That night, Tyler called with more bad news. "Linda is calling everyone in the family, telling them you've had a breakdown, you're making up lies, you're dangerous. She's asking people to write statements for the restraining order hearing. Can she do that? She's doing it. But I found something else. My mom let slip that Linda did something similar to your Uncle Patrick years ago." Patrick. My mother's brother, who I barely knew. The family didn't talk about him. What happened? He inherited money from their grandmother in the 90s. Linda was supposed to help him invest it. He ended up with nothing, and they haven't spoken in 20 years. Another victim. Another pattern. I spent December 30th tracking down Patrick. He lived in rural Vermont, off the grid. I drove 3 hours north through snow and ice, Tyler navigating from the passenger seat. Patrick's property was at the end of a dirt road, a small cabin surrounded by woods. He answered the door with a shotgun. "Patrick Thompson?" I asked, hands visible. "Who's asking?" "I'm Etta, Linda's daughter. I need to talk to you about what she did." He studied me for a long moment, then lowered the gun. "Come inside." The cabin was sparse but clean. Patrick was 62, weathered, with Linda's eyes and none of her warmth. "Your mother is a thief," he said without preamble. 1998, I inherited $35,000 from our grandmother. Linda convinced me to let her invest it, said she had connections. Over 2 years, she drained every penny through fake investment fees and forged paperwork. When I questioned her, she turned the family against me, called me unstable, claimed I was on drugs, said I was abusive. The story was identical to mine, the same tactics, the same lies. I spent years fighting her, lost everything, and finally walked away. I haven't spoken to the family in 23 years. He looked at me. Why are you here? I told him everything. The Christmas gift, the stolen inheritance, the lawsuit, the forged documents. Patrick's hands shook. She's still doing it. After all these years, she's still destroying people. I'm fighting back, I said. I have an attorney, evidence, but I need to prove this is a pattern. Would you testify? He disappeared into his attic and returned with a box. Documents spanning decades. Bank statements showing the slow drain of his inheritance. Letters from Linda making excuses. Even old cassette tapes of phone conversations where she admitted taking money but claimed it was for his own good. I kept everything, Patrick said, in case I ever got the courage to pursue it. Looks like that time is now. Using Patrick's information, I started calling other relatives, people Linda had isolated from the family over the years. Great Aunt Susan, 75. Linda borrowed $5,000 for medical expenses in 2010, never repaid it. When Susan asked about it, Linda stopped speaking to her. Second cousin Aaron, 40. Linda convinced him to co-sign a loan in 2015, then defaulted, ruined his credit. The family blamed him for being irresponsible. Cousin Beth, 33. Linda managed her small inheritance from an aunt. $20,000 vanished into vague investment losses. 7 victims, total over 30 years. Small amounts from vulnerable people. The same manipulation every time. None of them had reported it because Linda turned the family against them first. They all thought they were alone. On December 31st, Sarah reviewed everything we'd compiled. Patrick's evidence from 1998. Statements from all 7 victims. My forged check. The trust fund records. The text messages showing premeditation. This is a pattern of fraud spanning decades, Sarah said. We can file criminal charges and represent all victims in a civil suit, but I need money to proceed. A case this size requires $30,000 minimum for legal fees. I had $3,000 to my name. No job. No way to pay rent next month, much less $30,000 for an attorney. I can't afford it, I said, my voice breaking. Tyler squeezed my shoulder. We'll figure something out. At 11 that night, my phone rang. Unknown number. A woman's voice, elderly and warm. Etta dear? This is Eleanor Walsh, your grandmother's best friend. I remembered her vaguely. Mrs. Walsh had visited sometimes when I was young. Mrs. Walsh, how did you get my number? I have my ways. I heard through the family grapevine what's happening. Your grandmother told me years ago that if Linda ever went after you or Madison, I should intervene. My throat tightened. She knew? Your grandmother knew exactly what her daughter was. That's why she set up a second trust fund, separate from the one Frank managed. She left it in my care. $20,000 for emergencies. Eleanor's voice was firm. I think this qualifies. I'll wire it to your attorney tomorrow. Fight them, sweetheart. Your grandmother would want you to. I started crying. Mrs. Walsh, I don't know what to say. Say you'll win. That's all the thanks I need. On January 1st, Sarah received the wire transfer. She immediately filed multiple motions. Criminal complaint for fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement. Civil lawsuit on behalf of all 7 victims. Motion to dismiss my parents' countersuit. Emergency motion to freeze my parents' assets. The restraining order hearing was still set for January 2nd. Tomorrow. Tyler stayed at my apartment that night. We didn't sleep, just went through every piece of evidence one more time. At midnight, my phone buzzed. A text from my mother's number, which I'd forgotten to reblock. You're making the biggest mistake of your life. You'll have no family. No one will believe you. Drop this now and we'll forget everything. I typed back, see you in court, then blocked the number permanently. The family courthouse was smaller than I'd imagined. Tyler, Sarah, and I arrived at 8:30 for the 9 o'clock hearing. My parents were already there, sitting with their attorney, Richard Castellano. He wore a suit that probably cost more than my car. Madison sat between my parents. her face pale. She wore a conservative dress, her hair pulled back, playing the part of the dutiful daughter. None of them looked at me. Judge Patricia Winters called the case at 9:15. She was in her late 50s, with steel gray hair and an expression that suggested she'd heard every lie in existence. Castellano stood. Your Honor, my clients are seeking protection from their daughter, Etta Thompson, who has made false accusations of fraud, threatened violence, and is harassing the family with baseless legal action. He presented the fabricated text messages, Madison's police report, affidavits from relatives I'd never met, all claiming I was unstable and dangerous. He painted me as unhinged, vindictive, a daughter who couldn't accept that her parents had moved on from supporting her. Judge Winters looked at me. Miss Thompson, do you have representation? Sarah stood. Yes, Your Honor. Sarah Blake, representing Miss Thompson. We oppose this motion and have several matters to bring to the court's attention. She presented our evidence package. Everything. The forged check from my grandfather's estate with forensic analysis showing the signature wasn't mine. The trust fund depletion records. The fake loan documents. The text messages between Linda and Madison, planning the entire Christmas incident, Patrick's testimony, and 3 decades of evidence. Statements from 7 family members, showing a pattern of financial abuse spanning 30 years. Your Honor, Sarah said, Miss Thompson isn't harassing her family. She's the victim of a decades-long fraud scheme. We filed criminal complaints with the state's attorney as of yesterday. Castellano jumped up. This is outrageous. These accusations are completely unfounded. Judge Winters held up her hand. I'll decide what's outrageous, Counselor. She looked at Sarah. You're saying there's an active criminal investigation? Yes, Your Honor. The state's attorney is reviewing charges for fraud, forgery, identity theft, and embezzlement. The courtroom went completely silent. Judge Winters pulled up the forged check on her screen, examined it closely, then looked directly at my father. Mr. Thompson, did you sign your daughter's name on this check? Frank's face went white. That's a complicated situation, Your Honor. It's actually quite simple. Did you forge your daughter's signature to steal her inheritance? Castellano whispered frantically to my father. Frank remained silent. Judge Winters' expression hardened. I'm denying your motion for a restraining order. Furthermore, I'm issuing a temporary restraining order, protecting Miss Etta Thompson from you, your wife, and your daughter Madison. 500 feet, no contact of any kind. My mother gasped. You can't do this. I can, and I am. I'm also notifying court security that there appears to be probable cause for arrest on forgery charges. She nodded to the bailiff. 2 officers approached my father. Frank stood, his face red. Your Honor, please, this is a misunderstanding. The officers handcuffed him. My mother screamed. He's a respected businessman. You can't do this. He's a criminal, Judge Winters said flatly. Remove him. They walked my father out of the courtroom in handcuffs. I watched, feeling nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication, just numbness. After a brief recess, Judge Winters reconvened. My mother sat alone, Madison beside her. Both looked shell-shocked. Sarah called Madison to the stand as a witness to the fraud. Madison walked up slowly, her hands shaking. Miss Thompson, were you aware your sister Etta was supposed to receive $25,000 from your grandfather's estate? Madison's voice was barely audible. Yes. Did you receive your $25,000? Yes. Did you know Etta never received hers? Madison started crying. Yes. Did you know your parents forged her signature on the check? Madison broke completely. Words spilled out between sobs. I didn't know they forged it at first. I thought Etta gave them permission. But after Christmas, I heard them talking. Mom said they had to make sure Etta couldn't prove anything. Dad said the signature on the check was good enough to pass. Madison, shut up, my mother hissed. Judge Winters pointed at Linda. Mrs. Thompson, one more outburst, and you'll join your husband. Sit down and be quiet. Sarah continued. Madison, why did you file a false police report claiming Etta harassed you? Mom told me to. She said if we made Etta look crazy, no one would believe her about the money. She said it was the only way to protect the family. Did your mother tell you to fabricate the text messages? Madison sobbed harder. Yes. She used an app to make fake screenshots. I knew it was wrong, but I was scared. She said if I didn't help, I'd lose everything too. She finally looked at me. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have stopped them. Sarah walked her through everything. The BMW purchased with my stolen money. The piggy bank meant to humiliate me. The months of planning. The fake loan documents created in November. How Linda coached Madison on what to tell relatives. How Frank threatened to cut Madison off if she didn't cooperate. They've been doing this for years, Madison said through tears. I saw them do it to Cousin Aaron, to Aunt Susan. They find someone who trusts them and take everything. I watched them plan it. I helped them. She looked at Judge Winters. I'm just as guilty. My mother tried to leave. The bailiff blocked her exit. Judge Winters removed her glasses. In 30 years on the bench, I've seen calculated cruelty before, but targeting one's own child with this level of premeditation is exceptional. She granted the permanent restraining order, dismissed all claims against me with prejudice, referred Madison's testimony to the state's attorney for potential charges. Mrs. Thompson, you're incredibly fortunate you're not being arrested alongside your husband today. Don't test your luck. She looked at me. Miss Thompson, I'm sorry for what your family did to you. No one deserves this. Court is adjourned. Outside the courthouse. I couldn't breathe properly. Tyler hugged me. You did it. You actually did it. Sarah squeezed my shoulder. The criminal case will take months. But you're safe now. They can't touch you. My phone buzzed. Madison, calling from a blocked number. I answered. Not sure why. Etta, I know you won't forgive me. Madison's voice was thick with crying. But I meant what I said. I'm testifying against them for the state. I'm going to tell them everything. About Patrick, about Aaron, about everyone. I can't live with this anymore. My voice came out cold. You had years to make it right, Madison. You chose them until the very end. I know. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry. And the BMW? I'm selling it. I'll send you the money. It's the least I can do. I hung up. That evening, Hartford Hospital called. Janet's voice was warm. Etta, HR just called me. They heard about the court hearing. All charges were false. We're reinstating you immediately with back pay. Can you come back Monday? Yes, thank you. I sat on my couch that night, the Honda keys on the table. For the first time in 2 weeks, I slept through the night. The legal aftermath stretched through winter into early spring. Frank was formally charged with forgery, fraud, identity theft, and embezzlement. Linda faced charges as an accomplice and for filing false police reports. Both faced up to 15 years in prison. Madison testified for the prosecution in exchange for immunity. The state's attorney uncovered even more victims as word spread. 11 families total over 35 years. The estimated total stolen exceeded $300,000. I drove to the hospital with dread pooling in my stomach. The HR office felt sterile and cold. My supervisor, Janet, sat in the corner, her expression miserable. In March, they settled rather than face a lengthy trial. They had to liquidate everything to repay their victims. I received my $25,000 from grandfather's estate, the $8,000 stolen from my trust fund, and $30,000 in damages, $63,000 total. Uncle Patrick got his $35,000 back, plus interest. 35 years later, he called me crying. I never thought I'd see justice. The other victims received proportional restitution. Great Aunt Susan, Cousin Aaron, Beth. All of them finally made whole. Madison sold the BMW for $68,000. She sent me $40,000, more than her share, kept the rest for therapy and starting over. She moved to Oregon, changed her name, cut all ties with our parents. She sent one letter. I read it once. I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I was weak and cruel. I watched them destroy you, and I helped. The golden child treatment made me think I was special, but really I was just their accomplice. I'm in therapy. I've changed my name. I'm trying to become someone better. I don't expect to ever hear from you again, but I need you to know you were right to fight. You saved yourself and everyone else. You're the strongest person I've ever known. I'm sorry I wasn't. I filed the letter away. Some wounds don't heal, and that's okay. Frank was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Linda received 5 years. They appealed and lost. They declared bankruptcy. Everything was seized and distributed to victims. The house, the cars, the retirement accounts. Gone. Extended family finally saw the truth. Aunt Diane called, apologizing for not believing me. I was polite but distant. I'd learned who people were when tested. With the restitution money, I rebuilt my life. Paid off the Honda completely. Built a 6-month emergency fund. Enrolled in a nurse practitioner program using the money Eleanor had given me. Moved to a better apartment with a secure parking garage. Hartford Hospital promoted me for my excellent patient outcomes. My colleagues threw a welcome back party. Janet told me, "You're the toughest person here." And that's saying something in a hospital. Tyler became my closest friend. He introduced me to his partner, Marcus. They had me over for Sunday dinners. Eleanor, my grandmother's friend, became like a surrogate grandmother. Uncle Patrick visited from Vermont every few months. The victims I'd helped stayed in touch. Patrick, Susan, Aaron, Beth. We formed our own support network. Found family. Chosen family. 1 year after the piggy bank Christmas, I hosted a small dinner at my apartment. Tyler, Marcus, Eleanor, Patrick, and a few close friends. No biological family except those who stood by me. We exchanged modest, thoughtful gifts. Eleanor gave me a framed photo of my grandmother. Patrick gave me a hand-carved wooden box. Tyler gave me a journal with an inscription. For the strongest woman I know. I cooked dinner. We laughed. I felt peace. In February, 2 years after everything started, I received a letter from prison. My mother, asking for a visit. The letter was manipulative, playing victim. I'm your mother. I made mistakes, but I love you. Family is forever. Please come see me. I read it twice, then shredded it. I didn't need closure from someone who would never take responsibility. My healing didn't depend on their remorse. I started journaling, something my therapist recommended. I wrote, I used to think family meant blood, that you owed loyalty to the people who raised you, no matter what. The piggy bank taught me differently. Sometimes the people who should love you most are the ones who hurt you worst. And that's not your fault. I learned that standing up for yourself isn't selfish, that asking for what you deserve isn't greedy, that walking away from toxicity isn't abandonment. I learned that real family isn't about DNA. It's about who shows up when everything falls apart, who believes you when everyone else calls you crazy, who stands beside you in court and hands you tissues when you cry. The piggy bank held $1, but it gave me something priceless. The clarity to see who my parents really were, and the courage to walk away. I lost the family I was born into, but I gained something better, myself, my dignity, my peace, my life. 3 years after that Christmas, I'm a nurse practitioner now. Better salary, better hours. I bought a small house in a quiet neighborhood. The Honda still runs perfectly. I'll never sell it. It's my victory car. My reminder of what I survived. I have a small circle of genuine people who love me for who I am, not what I can give them. I volunteer with a nonprofit helping victims of financial abuse, using my story to help others recognize manipulation. Christmas morning. 3 years later, I wake in my own home. Sun streams through windows I chose. Tyler and Marcus are coming over later. Eleanor is bringing her famous apple pie. Patrick is driving down from Vermont. I make coffee and look at the small tree in my living room. Simple decorations. thoughtful presents underneath. Nothing expensive, everything meaningful. My phone rings. A video call from Aaron, one of the victims I helped. "Merry Christmas, Etta. Just wanted to say thank you again. Because of you, I got my money back and learned to stand up for myself. You changed my life." We chat for a few minutes. Easy, warm conversation. After hanging up, I noticed something on my bookshelf. The piggy bank. I kept it as a reminder. I pick it up, shake it gently. The single-dollar bill rattles inside. I smile. That dollar bought me freedom. I set it back on the shelf and look outside. Fresh snow covers the ground, clean and white. Inside, my home is warm and full of light. No BMW, no red bow, no expensive gifts meant to show favoritism. Just peace, dignity, a life I built myself. And that, I think, is worth more than anything they could have given me. I got a $1 gift and lost my family. But I found something better. I found myself. And no one can ever take that away. So, I want to ask you something. Have you ever been treated differently in your family? Maybe you weren't the favorite, or someone got opportunities you never received. How did you handle it? Did you speak up, or did you stay silent to keep the peace? Leave a comment below and share your story. You might help someone else realize they're not alone. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button. It helps others find these stories and know they're not the only ones going through this. And if you want to hear more stories about standing up for yourself and finding your worth, subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. Every story I share is about real struggles and real strength. Finally, please share this video with someone who might need to hear it. Sometimes people need permission to walk away from toxicity, and your share might be exactly what they need to see. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I know it was long, but I needed to tell you everything. I hope wherever you are, whatever you're going through, you remember this. You deserve to be treated with respect and love. You deserve to stand up for yourself, and you deserve peace. Take care of yourselves. Choose the people who choose you. And never let anyone make you feel small. Until next time,